Wait, the song after this? We're going in after this, right? Yeah,
One more
9:59.
song. It's actually a minute, but it's going to carry over into another song.
Can we come in on time? In the middle of the song or something? The reason I'm asking is because we have a lot.
I got to get the ID.
All right, get the
Here it comes. You're listening to WKND 1480 AM Windsor, Hartford, W248CR 97.5 FM Windsor.
Good job. A little louder.
This is the Jamal Show.
Give me a little volume. Some coffee. Thanks for the coffee, man. Starbucks always makes it too hot. Yes, as I was saying, Starbucks always makes it too hot. You know what I'm saying? When you get coffee from Starbucks. Good morning. Good morning. Maybe it's not a good morning for you. I can definitely relate with that. I have not been having good mornings myself recently. And I usually do have good mornings, but my recent bad luck started a couple weeks ago when my car was stolen.
I told him, get out of that neighborhood now.
That's right, you did. From right in front of my residence. My bad for buying a Kia. And I wish I could say it was my first time with the stolen car experience, but it wasn't. I also wish I could say that the Hartford police were really helpful, but they weren't. In fact, I felt as if I had to conduct my own investigation. But I do want to send a shout out to the New York State Police, who I found to be very helpful. It was the New York State Police who found my car and chased the people who stole it. It was the New York State Police who came up with the very bright idea, to actually call me to tell me they had possession of my car in evidence. And as funny as this sounds, the Hartford police up here in Connecticut still think that my car is stolen. And I can't seem to convince them otherwise, so there's that. As if that weren't enough, right after my car was stolen, I became really sick with some sort of stomach ailment. Dr. Mack, you remember this.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep any food or water down. I had a slight fever. I won't mention the diarrhea. I was tossing and turning in my sleep. It was horrible. That's the reason why we haven't been on the air for a little while. We are usually on every 2 weeks. But I'm very happy to have made it through that illness. But let me tell you, my friends, when your stomach isn't working properly, it really screws you up. Because not only are you experiencing abdominal pain, but you can't get the nutrients you need from food to be strong. So you're sick and you're weak from not eating. So for something like 9 days, I felt like I was dying, but it gave me lots of time to think.
I took out a life insurance policy.
Yeah, it was a smart thing. And the thought came to me, maybe the universe is telling me something. Maybe there are things I need to give up on. Maybe I need to think about giving up. Now, I don't talk about giving up a lot on this show because, quite frankly, I don't believe in giving up on anything. Giving up has been a foreign concept to me most of my life. This is part of the reason why people like me get trapped up in lifelong crusades like the Jamal Show. We just don't know when to stop. People like myself, we believe that the only way we can fail is by giving up. For as long as I can remember, I've equated the idea of giving up with quitting. Giving up on anything has always meant the same thing as quitting to me. So you would never see me in a hospice, even when I'm about to die. To me, that's always been like quitting on your life. That's why I didn't understand my mother when she voluntarily went to hospice during the final stages of her brain cancer. And this is what I thought about when I heard that former President Jimmy Carter recently went into hospice. It's funny how time flies. Jimmy Carter was president when I was born. And I've always heard that getting old is sort of like you're reminded that you're getting old because little pieces of your childhood die. And that's what I felt when I heard about Jimmy Carter. God bless his soul. What a great man he is. Now, I'm learning that giving up is not quitting. Giving up is adapting. Giving up is transitioning. Giving up may help you succeed, in fact. It is important to know when it's time for you to give up on one thing so that you can try something else. Jimmy Carter didn't go into hospice because he was giving up on life. He went into hospice because that was the best of all of his bad options. For both him and my own mother, Going into hospice was a representation of them living the best life that they could at the time. In my own situation, my car was stolen and I couldn't help that. But I wasn't completely helpless in the story. I'd be lying to you if I told you that. The fact is that my car was stolen with an unused anti-theft device inside of it. I had a club in the trunk that I could have used, but I didn't. So I ultimately had control over whether my car was stolen that day. If I had used my anti-theft device that was in the car at the time, I could have prevented myself heartache. So right off the bat, I may need to give up being careless. I'm very careless. Now, my dad told me to go easy on myself. Everybody gets careless from time to time, he said. But not having a car caused trouble in my life. So I can't afford to let it happen again, at least not because of carelessness. And how about my health? Well, the truth is I have control over that too. At least to some extent. I never considered myself an alcoholic, but maybe I need to give up drinking, or maybe I need to give up meat.
Mean I'm have to buy my own?
Right?
Don't do that.
Or fried foods, or being a night owl. Get enough sleep, they said. In this context, giving up is not taking a step back, it's taking a step forward. I'm not just giving up, I'm making room for something else. I'm making room for other things. Because the overall theme is that life goes on until it doesn't. And now that I've finally matured enough to understand this, I'm always asking myself, what do I need to give up to move forward in my life? Not only what do I need to learn, but what do I need to unlearn? And knowing when to give up is important too, because if you don't know when to give up, you may end up like this other guy, stand-up comedian Trump. How'd you like that transition? Dr. Mack, my new name is the Master of Transitions. I bring up Trump because he's about to get his ass indicted in the great state of Georgia for attempting to tamper with their elections. Now, you might be wondering what I'm talking about, so let me remind you. Does anybody remember this?
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Now,
wait. But he says that was a perfect phone call.
Right. Well, what's perfect was his memory on how many votes he needed, because he had it right down, right? He was like, no, 11,000, 0.5, sir, right. 0.5. Well, that was released over 2 years ago. Now, 2 years later, we finally have a prosecutor who's not giving up on indicting the former president and stand-up comedian. You may be wondering how I know that, Dr. Mack. Ask me how I know that he's going to get indicted.
Go ahead.
Because a little girl told me. Not that it matters, but she was white. She was also the lead grand juror who investigated Trump in Georgia. Her name is Emily Kors. She basically told all of us that Trump would likely be indicted in several interviews. She said possibly by summer. Do you believe her, Matt?
Yo, most definitely. I mean, in Georgia, the law allows these people to speak on this, as long as they don't talk about the deliberations.
Right. So this kind of as you were saying, this kind of activity would normally be very illegal in any other circumstances where there's a grand jury. You know, grand juries are usually prohibited from talking to the press. But this is Georgia. And in Georgia, that's how they get down with their grand juries. And it's totally legal. They let their grand jurors gossip and drop the tea after the hearings. Kind of strange to a lawyer like myself, but who doesn't like good entertainment? Now, by the way, in other news, we've been hearing about Trump getting indicted for a long time, so hopefully this summer we'll have some action, right? But in other news, we found out that about 48 hours ago that Alex Murdaugh has been convicted of murdering his wife and child. And I got to admit, I had totally no interest in this case, other than my belief that this guy might have been railroaded.
Railroaded? What do you think, man?
Well, I believe this is an indictment on the justice system as a whole.
Why?
Because no one family should have that much power over any part of the justice system and have a monopoly over it in any city, town, or state.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for those that don't recognize the voice,
he did rule the county.
This is my good friend James, who's visiting. He will be sitting in with us. We call him James from St. Louis. So if you notice a St. Louis accent, you better know it's real, baby. Now, I didn't really pay attention to this case, but I did think that the prosecution expression of a motive, they said basically this guy was a fraud. He was about to get audited. He was about to get thrown in jail for cheating on his clients and lying to everybody. So he killed his child and wife, which doesn't make much sense to me. They had to have something on him because all these white people convicted him. So they had to have something on him. But killing your wife and child never made things better in the financial world to me.
Jamal, but there were two other important things that have happened besides this dude and this wife thing. I mean, this is like petty gossip. I mean, convicting him, the world doesn't change. You know what I mean?
Right.
The only thing, if you want to make anything of it, was that the judge was black and then pronounced his sentence and things like that. The other two important things, and is the Supreme Court race in the state of Wisconsin. The fact that the Republicans won that. I mean, this is a state that is controlled by gerrymandering, and now that the Republicans control everything in Wisconsin, there's no chance for the Democrats ever.
Well, everyone knows that the way they operate is they choose their voters, right?
Right.
That's what gerrymandering is all about. Now, back on what James was saying about the Murdoch thing, this can really only happen in a small town where there's a guy who's the head of a law firm. His cousin is like the solicitor general. His other cousin's like the judge that makes all the rules. His other cousin's like the state senator. This is all family control. This kind of stuff happens in small towns where they control kind of everything. No one in this family can get indicted. His son gets drunk on a boat and kills like another teenager and doesn't get in trouble at all. We have a call coming in, but we'll get to that. This is what James is talking about. He feels like this is corruption of the American system when this family is allowed to have this much power.
All right.
Am I correct?
Well,
Definitely.
okay.
And this is why, to me, this is why, if anything, this is why they had this playing on CNN and MSNBC and all the cable channels 24 hours a day, because people saw a man actually taking a fall who was at the top of the town. This guy, he was stealing money with impunity, and people didn't catch him for years. If there had been a black man in that firm, you know what I'm saying? It would have been like, Tyree Nichols. You know what I'm saying? They'd have pulled him out the car like Tyree Nichols, But check this out. This is what really surprises me. Being a criminal defense attorney in Connecticut, I see a lot of hard sentences being handed down. I've dealt with kids who was given 75 years at 15 years old, who I won't name right now. And to see him get convicted of killing two people and all that fraud and get 30 years, he got 30 years, right? 30 years to life or something?
He got 30 years consecutively. So therefore, 30 years for his son and 30 years for his wife.
Now, I know people that have 75 years for one person, right? And it always seems like no matter how heinous the crime, that inequality in the justice system must remain. It must remain. Like, I'll give you a great example. All the times we see terrorists like get arrested and they're like, oh, well, are you okay, sir? Hey, let's take him to McDonald's before we bring him to the question stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
But Tyree Nichols is like, get out the car, man, you didn't get the car quick enough.
Yeah.
What was that? You having hope? Let's kick the hope out of this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Like the white kid that went and shot up all the people in the church.
Okay, we do have a caller.
They took him to McDonald's. Let's catch.
Hold on. I want to introduce him for a minute because here's an important thing. This is an important commemoration. We are at the anniversary of the first year of the Ukraine war that started on February 24th, 2022. It isn't an American war, but it is an American war by proxy that must be won by the Ukrainians, or else it may be an American war for real one day. And there's one guy in this world who should consider giving up on a useless pursuit. It is Vladimir Putin, because the Ukrainian war is a useless pursuit, my friends. How do I know Putin can't be successful? Because nothing can be more useless than an attempt to force leadership upon a population that would rather die than follow you. And this is the clear intent that the Ukrainians have shown, to die rather than follow Putin. That's the right intent from my perspective. But my opinion is not the only one that matters. So I like to make room for someone else's opinion sometimes, every now and then. My friends, on the line, we have Victor from the great state of Arizona. Victor is a veteran of war, and he has some pretty strong opinions, not only of war in general, but of this war in Ukraine. And I thought he should state them in public if he's not afraid to. So Vic from Arizona, are you on the line with me right now?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Vic, let's start.
What's on your mind?
Wait, first I got to know something about him.
All right.
We got to know, what do you do for a living? And please tell me a little bit about your military background.
I sell and install security systems.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. Takes good care of me, and I'm not getting shot at, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
My background is I served in the U.S. Marines. I did 4 years active duty, and I did 1 year in the reserves. When I got out, kind of helped me transition back to being a civilian. I have served in combat, and that was a long time ago.
All right. So, what has your military background? I'm gonna let you get to them in a minute, Mac.
All right.
What has your military background taught you about war in general? And we're gonna get more general after this and get into your views, but I want to start with the basics.
I would say the biggest thing that my background taught me is that when we go to war, it's not for the reason that we were told or what we originally thought. I'm speaking from my own experiences. War, in my opinion, is not fair. It makes people do things that they would normally never even consider doing to another person, and it changes your humanity for the rest of your life.
I agree with you
You
on
can't go
that.
back, and you can't go back and undo what was done.
No, I agree. I mean, if you look at almost every war that America's been in, the lie was given against the people. I mean, the Spanish War, the blowing up of the Maine blew up on its own. The Vietnam War, bad Tonkin, that the Vietnamese didn't go after that boat. No, it goes on and on and on and on. But it's whatever. It's a motivator. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
And I also think, like I said, I think war, when I look back at war, the only ones that ever win, it's never the people that win. It's only the war profiteers, the bankers, the politicians. They're the only ones who win.
Okay, let me ask you on a personal note. Would you ever go to war again? Is there any war that you consider as righteous?
Somebody was coming after my family.
Well, yeah, I guess that kind of goes without saying. All right, so let me ask you about specifics about the Ukrainian war in particular. Do you have any feelings about the Ukrainian war that's going on right now that you'd like to opine on?
There's only my feelings on the Ukrainian war is that I feel like there's more going on than what we're being told by the media and what we're being told by our government. I feel like we're being lied to. I feel like we've been lied to for every war, that we've gone to. I feel like there's more. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not gonna say that I know what's going on. I just believe the official story is not true.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you have any reasons or evidence to think that your government may be lying to you, other than the fact that they've lied many, many times in the past? I mean, anything that sticks out this particular time?
You've lied to me several times. I'm gonna have if my girlfriend cheats on me, 20 times, I'm gonna have a hard time believing her even 5-10 years later.
Well, yeah, okay. No, I'm with you. But with this Ukrainian thing, I think this is an attempt by America to fight Russia again by proxy. And they have about 97% of their army tied up in this war, and we are bleeding them. Okay, so now, and we have been lied to for decades, telling us how strong Russia was, only to find out now how weak they are. I mean, where did all the other magical stuff go to that made Russia so strong, other than the nuclear stuff? And should we respect the fact that they have nuclear?
Vit?
Again, I'm not here to pick a side. I'm just saying I don't think we know the whole truth. I think there's more going on. I'm not gonna speculate that I know what it is. I just know that if I look back at all the wars, if I look at everything that I've learned or been taught by my media and my government, it's pretty much been a lie.
Okay, so finally, Vic, everyone who comes to the show gets to say their message to the world. First, so I'm going to ask you, do you have a message for the world on the Jamal Show today? And do you have any contact information, just in case somebody wants to shoot you an email or something like that? Why don't you give it to us?
If somebody wants to shoot me an email, my email address is fitness1s, TNESS, the number 1S at yahoo.com. Somebody wants to
Essence
email me. And I would say my message to the world is, you know, I obviously speak from my own experience. And, you know, I know that everybody has their own perspective, and that's on, you know, mine's based on my own experience. I truly think war is not fair. I truly think that it's inhumane. I truly think that almost every war I can think of was fought over a lie, and it's more about money and war profiteering rather than fighting for freedom and democracy, which is why I enlisted, because that's what I thought it was. And I realized that it wasn't. So, you know, I've always been very passionate about that feeling of war. And, you know, I know you like to say that I like Donald Trump, and I don't. I think he's a scumbag personally. But if I had to say one good thing about him, he's the only president we had in 39 years who didn't start a new war. And he didn't end the wars, but he's the first one that didn't actually go out and create new ones. And, you know, I look at that and I'm like, well, gosh, I guess I have to say that's at least a start, you know?
Yeah.
It's at least something good.
Well, Vic, we're running out of time now. I really appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Vic.
A lot of people would think, go ahead and let him go. I'm gonna talk to you later, Vic. A lot of people would think that I differ from Vic, but let me just tell you, what he said is the reason why I told my son not to go in the military. And what he said is the reason why my father told me not to go in the military. So I don't discount what he says, but I do support the Ukraine war. But I do also support this show, and that means I have to get on with the official introduction. Welcome to Saturday, my friends, the very next day of your life. This is the Jamal Show, the place to get intelligent, live and on your favorite podcasting network. The name is Jamal. I am an information junkie from Harlem, and I'm passing the fruits of my illness on to you. Then you can pass it on to your loved ones, and at the end, everyone will be a little bit smarter and extremely lonely. As for me, I'm your listener guide, mostly along for the ride. Make sure you don't get too high, coming straight through the Hartford studios of WKND, and I'm doing that live just to make my haters work harder and realize their own potential, because I love everybody. Time to say hello to my friends here in the station. I think I should start with the Archbishop, and I think I should do it the right way this time. Hello, Archbishop. Okay. You will be syndicating the Jamal Show on your very own radio station called CLM. Excuse me, sorry for that. I'm new here. You're syndicating the Jamal Show on your very own radio station called CLM Urban Music Radio. Is that correct? So we are very happy with that. Also, a very big hello to my very good friend, when he chooses to wear deodorant, Dr. Alfonso Mack. How you doing, Alfonso?
I'm good. I get something to drink.
All right, good. You got me something too, so that helped. You're gonna be returning next week. And also, we got some new blood in here. My good friend James from St. Louis. He's a friend who is visiting us in the studio today. Say hello, James, please.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
All right.
Some Midwestern thinking in here.
That's right. So you know that the accent is real. Moving on, it's been a whole month since you last heard my voice. So first of all, you're welcome. Everybody deserves a break sometimes. I think you had it coming. The last time I was on air, the theme was punishment. And by the time I'm done talking, you will swear that this one was all about punishment as well. All of this stuff is all over the internet. If you want to find it one day, I think you should. Today, I'm talking about giving up. This is a task at which I am not experienced or an expert. But it is a task that we should all get more comfortable with, because the most limitless power you possess is the power to let go of a person, of a thought, or anything else. To make it clearer, I'll use giving up in a sentence. Here we go. WKND has given up on finding any value to the Jamal Show. That's why the owner doesn't let me speak on behalf of the station, because he'd like to stay in business. And he may be stupid, but he's a smart guy. Remember, I said that. If you want
that, not me.
if you want to call in, you can. Just call 860-218-2173, just like Vic from Arizona did. I repeat, 860-218-2173. I can't promise you I'll make you feel good, like feeding the homeless. So maybe you should just do both. Okay, folks, if you're still with us, then you definitely have earned a break with some great independent music. When we come back, we're going to talk about Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, and his recent bout with that terrible illness, racism. And then you're going to hear me tell you why Joe Biden is the man again, like I've done like every episode. Please stay with us For music today, we begin with a guy named Mark L33. The song is called One of a Kind. He's kind of loud too. It might be kind of loud too, so they just mixed it.
All right, so what did Biden do that made you happy?
Oh, well, he's about to announce, right? So I'm just trying to get a little, because he has his little
Announce for what? Presidency?
for re-election.
Are he running again?
Well,
And
there's two things he's got problems with.
and this is coming up because I had lunch with him and an 82-year-old guy who both said they wouldn't vote for an 80-year-old guy for president. And I have a problem with that, but I think the man is performed. I think he's performed. If you perform at your job, you would hate for them to be like, oh, well, Mac is just old.
Bro, they do that all the time.
They
bro.
do. They do it to me, and I'm only 51.
Yeah.
I
Age is a risk.
got sick at work. They're like, man.
Come out, going 40 years. You heard him try?
Huh?
You heard him try?
Yes. You need more music? I've been running around. So so I've been dealing with him more about his radio station. If you want to deal with him on the music thing, I'll tell him to give you a call. All right? I'll tell him to give you a call.
heard from him in a while.
Yeah. He's in the middle of something with his house and stuff. He's preparing. He bought that new house in Florida, and when he bought it, the heat of the air conditioner went out immediately. It's like $2,000. So he's having a big repair in his house right now. You gotta be careful when you buy houses, man. Might be listening right now. This is Christian rap. I thought I'd give it a shot. That's the one area of rap that hasn't blown up yet, and I think that it can. It just hasn't gotten that one guy. You know what I'm saying? That one star to open it up. You know what I'm saying? Like Run DMC did the rap kind of thing. I think that rap is made for like Christian music. You know what I'm saying? Because of how flexible it is. You know, you can put any kind of music. You can put any kind of music behind it. Spiritual music is really open. Like you see the differences between Catholic religious music and Pentecostal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's very flexible. And I just think that rap artists are so involved with crime and stuff and bragging about the sex and stuff.
It's easier to rap about stuff you hate than
Yes.
about stuff you love.
Exactly. And not only that, but something that everyone gets along with. And I'm wasting time. That's right. Thanks for
You know,
reminding me.
you really have to believe in what
I'm glad I
you're
put that in
doing.
there.
Only 2 minutes.
Yeah.
That's really the message of this show. That's what this show is all about. And we hope you believe in the message as much as we do, which is why we're hoping that you'll take this opportunity to support us through coffee.com. That's ko-fi.com/The Jamal Show. Please join us there. Consider buying us a coffee. We need the caffeine.
People actually respond to
keep
this.
show running. And
I'm about
to
to
keep telling
get
the
rid of
truth,
cable.
quite honestly. So why don't you join us and we'll give you a nice
I've been got right
You've
here.
been late on that. You've been late on that.
Yeah.
Coffee.com. That's
I mean, I'm gonna use my phone,
ko-fi.com
I got
/The
5G.
Jamal Show.
you know,
We really appreciate any support you can give us. Thank
for
you.
anything like movies or anything.
What's up? I'm back again, just where I'm not wanted, like stand-up comedian Trump. That last independent music selection was entitled One of a Kind by Mark L33. And that song is being released for sale today on Apple Music and everywhere else where you can buy music. Check them out online. And by the way, this is Christian rap. I think there's a large market open for Christian rap. I think it might get bigger in the future. Let's see. Moving on, I wanted to talk to you folks a little bit about Dilbert. For those who live under a rock, Dilbert is a newspaper comic that has had a huge following all over the world. The strip is about a guy named Dilbert who works in a stereotypical office with cubicles and all the other things that make a job dehumanizing. You know, the boss that's dumber than you, but he makes way more money. The boss takes credit for all of your ideas. There's a guy in the office that gets paid for not doing any work. For some reason, there's a dog with an executive role in the company, etc. I got into this comic strip as I was entering the workforce myself in the 90s, and it really spoke to what I was experiencing as a new worker. I collected the Dilbert books, the t-shirts. I even watched the short-lived Dilbert TV show. I've always thought that the Dilbert comic strip was one of the best ever created, and the story behind its creator, Scott Adams, was pretty inspiring as well. He was a middle-class corporate worker guy who stayed up every night after work to create a comic strip that he never knew would catch on. And then it did catch on. And then Scott Adams became wealthy. So it should come as no surprise to you that as an early fan of Scott Adams, I picked up one of his nonfiction books a few years ago. It was a motivational book. I think it was titled Fail at Everything and Still Win Big. It was a stupid title, but I picked it up. And I started listening to it with excitement, as a fan would. But I soon noticed something strange about the tone of the book. The man whose work I had admired for years, Scott Adams, started complaining in his book about how oppressed he was as a white man. He mentioned in the book that he felt that he had no future in a diverse workforce because he was white. And he felt that all the minorities at his previous job were promoted ahead of him, not because of skill, but because of their color. Definitely not because of their skill. He didn't mention that. So sure, everybody has their opinion, right? But the problem was that his opinion in that book was opposite from what I learned in my own life experience. Because in the world I live in, Mac, white men are pretty much the CEOs of all the corporations around.
Well, if they're not white males, they're definitely white females. There are more white females owning companies than there are white males.
Where? But if in the Fortune 500, put a bulletin board of every Fortune 500 company on the wall and throw a dart at it, and ask me, who's the CEO of that company? Is it James from St. Louis, or is it John Whiteman from Connecticut, most likely?
It's hard.
Greenwich.
It's hard for me to make that argument, but I will say this. I mean, from I don't know, there's been such gains made. All right.
Okay.
It's been hard. It's been slow. It's been meritorious. Okay, but the gains have been made.
Okay, yeah, I can't dispute
just
that.
hold up a picture of Betty White.
So I returned this guy's book, Scott Adams, to the retailer to trade for one that didn't offend my values. And that's when I noticed strange things Scott Adams is doing in public. Seemed like a bunch of publicity stunts with racial overtones aimed at trolling people. He started doing weird stuff like writing Donald Trump-themed Dilbert books and calling himself a black person to try and ally himself with black people. But my friends, nothing tops what he did recently, and this hasn't been in the news much. But it looks like Scott Adams has decided to ditch his career in favor of dementia. Please listen to this clip, Mac, and then tell me what you think, all right?
All right, go ahead.
Here we go.
This morning, hundreds of newspapers are stripping their pages of the widely syndicated comic Dilbert after this live stream by its creator, Scott Adams.
If nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group.
Adams referencing a recent poll during his YouTube show Wednesday and taking aim at Black Americans who disagreed with the statement, "It's okay to be white," a hate slogan used by white supremacists, according to the Anti-Defamation League.
The best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people.
His rant igniting furor on social media. The once popular comic now dropped by a growing number of publications, including the New York Times and the Washington Post, denouncing his comments as racist and promoting segregation.
My reputation for the rest of my life is destroyed.
What about
After
that?
a barrage of tweets and multiple live streams since the incident, Adams doubling down on his comments again on Sunday.
Including the cancellations. This was all predictable. And I knew it when I said it. And I was okay with it.
The 65-year-old says the media took his words out of context and he was only advising people to avoid hate. Despite his highly successful comic that briefly reached TV screens, Adams has been no stranger to controversy. Months ago, the San Francisco Chronicle reported it stopped carrying Dilbert after his work made fun of reparations for African Americans.
Okay, let me take the first swing. His advice was for white people to stay away from black people. According to my life experience and what I've seen, they're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone ever heard of black people living with black people and white people living with white people? Isn't that what happens?
Redlining.
White flight. I mean, I didn't make a white flight. I believe that term came into being before I was born.
Jinx.
Aren't they already doing that? Weren't they doing? I mean, we're sitting with a guy who had to be escorted into school.
Yeah.
By police officers.
Right.
Because of segregation.
Right. But I don't know, guys. There are. I don't know what to say about this. One, I'm not in favor of shutting him up. Okay. I would like for him to continue so that we can fight and expose what he's saying. I mean, as long as it's silent, we can't fight it. All right. A silent racist does more harm than one that's vocal. All right. So let me know you're racist and I can deal with this.
And there are some whites that think about this and they hear, he said that it's okay to be white, basically. What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with
so
that.
what a lot of people
There's
say,
nothing wrong
but
with
what a
that.
lot of people don't understand is that it's okay to be white is actually a trope. It's a white supremacist trope put out by people who are trying to troll the idea of a diverse.
So you have to define what is meant by what.
Right, and what is it meant to be by okay?
What
is meant by okay, too, right? See, it's a troll question. It was put out by Rasmussen, which is kind of this it's a highly discredited poll, which kind of leans conservative, and they ask a lot of troll questions like, "Do you think it's okay to be white?" In order to get responses like this.
So the numbers are skewed.
Right. Well, it's meant to be like it's sort of like if a polling guy went into a black community and said, "Hey, do you think all black people are on welfare?" Like, it's a troll question. It's not a question meant to get any real fact from it so that you could use it to analyze anything. And what he did was he knew this. He actually spoke about this. He said, "Okay, I know the Rasmussen poll isn't that credible. In fact, the guy who started the Rasmussen actually left it last year. But he still used it, and he's a very loud voice on the internet. Like, he's followed by millions of people all over the world because of the success of his comic strip. His comic strip is one of the most successful since Charlie Brown.
What, Dilbert?
Yeah. I mean, back in your days, Charlie Brown was the biggest thing ever, right? Snoopy was the first Mickey Mouse.
I like. Well, I'll name it. It was Al Cap with
Andy Cap. Yeah.
Andy Cap. You know,
Yeah, my mother used to like that.
Kickapoo Joy Juice and Daisy May and Lil Abner. Man, that was on time.
And you know what? It kind of made me glad I returned this book. But since these unfortunate statements were made, he's doubled down. He apparently doesn't mind losing his income to carry his warped message. What I call this is self-destruction for no reason. Maybe he should start hanging out with Kanye West. So they both can study a meaningless existence together. Both.
What you're going to see is a rally. Watch the rally. Watch.
I don't know, but I can tell you who doesn't have mental illness, and this is a debate between us. That's Joe Biden. And I'm bringing him up. Wait, let me give him what he deserves. I call him Uncle Joe Biden, thank you. This one is for the student loan forgiveness that he's trying to do. So that's for you, Joe. He's about to run for re-election. Let me ask you a question, Mac. Why shouldn't he run? When you put that question out to the universe, why shouldn't Joe Biden run? You get an answer. Age. He's too old, is what people will tell you. And I won't lie. Joe Biden is definitely a senior citizen, if nothing else. But the man has not shown any deficiencies in his job. In fact, the opposite is true.
Well, okay. I mean, okay. Oh, man, where do you start? He was just diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, all right, taken off his chest last week. And he just did something to Washington, D.C., which I'm unhappy about. But,
what's that?
What's that? Oh, well, he just, Washington, D.C. used to be able to write their own laws and rules, and Joe Biden vetoed a movement.
That's right. To decriminalize something.
Right.
To,
so it hasn't finished yet. All right, but he came down a little bit on the side where I said, "No, Joe, I'm not with you on this one."
I mean, yes, that you can pick at that, but the real problem with DC is that it's not a state. Yes. That's the real problem with both DC and Puerto Rico is that they're not states.
Wait a minute, they're different entities, all right?
One's a Commonwealth, right? One's a Commonwealth. DC was set aside as a district for governing for the national government, and that's why it's not a state. But now, since then, it's become fully populated with people who deserve representation, with people who pay taxes. They get taxation without representation, which is supposed to be unconstitutional. But you know what? DC is also black, and Puerto Rico is also colored. And so they're having some issues. Republicans would never vote. I want to bring back the word color.
23.
Okay. So
he ain't with me.
I guess the cat's out of the bag. I've been trying for years to bring back the word color because I think it's cool. Just like Negro. I love those words. Anyway, old school words are great. Colored, Negro, all good for me. So We got two places that should have been states years ago. If they were states, then Joe Biden would have no say in what happens in DC politics. And what he should do is lobby to help DC become a state. He's mentioned it many times before. The DC mayor has talked about it. We saw what happened in Puerto Rico when they got hit with a big hurricane and they didn't get the support they were supposed to. They got paper towels thrown at them by stand-up comedian Trump on his comedy tour. So that's the real problem. I mean, yeah, you can nitpick at things that Joe Biden does. I'm sure I have to. The crime bill is what people usually bring up when he was a senator. You know, then I remind people that the Black Caucus actually supported the crime bill, along with the president, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Everyone did. No one knew that it was going to have the effects that it did in the long run. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Okay.
So, quite frankly, let me just go on my list. Joe Biden has been one of the most accomplished presidents in history if you look at his legislative wins. He passed the infrastructure bill that every president has been trying to pass for decades. He signed the American Rescue Plan during COVID, and Americans didn't have to go bankrupt from not working. In fact, most people I know that were poor got excessive money. Excessive money. He has created more jobs in a 2-year span than any president in history. He's also lifted more children out of poverty than any president in history. He's even trying his best to forgive some student loan money, which I'm for, obviously. But, you know, we have some people who paid off their student loans.
I paid mine off.
Who believe that this should go through Congress.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You're talking about $500 billion. All right. Now, one man should not control $500 billion. And I mean, that's why we have a Congress to debate this. And so, yes.
I mean, but you only have a Congress as split as this. Something like student loan forgiveness can't ever come through because now we have Republicans that vote against them just to vote against them. Just for the.
And that's why they should do that as Republicans so that we can vote them out. But I think it should be a congressional thing to walk away from $500 billion.
Now, specifically on Black people, Joe Biden increased the student loan forgiveness $10,000 for people who have Pell Grants. If you look into Pell Grants, you'll find that mostly Black people have them from inner cities. Not only that, but Joe Biden has even changed the Democratic primary map so that Black people have more of a voice in the primaries. You know what I'm saying? I believe like South Carolina is up in the first 3 now. So when you look at the Republican Party, it gives Black people less of a voice. The Democratic Party is trying to give Black people more of a voice. How can you hate Joe Biden is my thing. How can any Black man?
You're saying that South Carolina moved up to number 3 in the primary, right?
I believe so.
Right. I agree. Okay. And that was so that, because Joe almost didn't make it to South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, we
all
know
South Carolina that saved it.
Right. James Clyburn.
That's
right. James Clyburn was the kingmaker.
All right. And I mean, so we had to stop.
Yeah, but before Joe Biden even got into office, people were complaining, saying that the first 4 or 5 states were all white. You know, Iowa,
New Hampshire.
Find a Black person in Iowa, please, and I'll sit here and wait. You know what I'm saying? Like New Hampshire, Maine. I mean, so this was equitable because the very basis of the Democratic Party at this point in time is Black people. Joe Biden got elected because of Black women. That's clear.
Educated Black women,
yeah. I mean, this is why he made the promise he did. It was a ballsy promise. Hey, I'm going to make a Black woman Supreme Court justice. I mean, that was ballsy. He got hit for that. They were like, "Why would you say that before you even look at the candidates? Why would you say that? That's discriminatory."
He's still not with me, okay?
Joe Biden say you ain't Black if you ain't vote for Joe Biden.
So he actually said that. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of agreed with him. I was like, well, I mean, the man is kind of like giving us a Black female vice president. I mean, you got to give the man some credit. And what I see is no one wanted to give him credit for these ballsy things that he's done. He actually went up and said, I think I'm gonna legalize marijuana. And the response the people give to him is, oh, you're old. Old people don't legalize marijuana. That's a young man. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Obama was old. Maybe Obama was too old because he's the one that should have done it. Marijuana should have been legalized years ago. You know how many people suffered? How many Black families were ripped apart from marijuana? Think about that.
Yeah.
Joe Biden has paid more attention to black people than any other president in history, including Obama. My friends, Joe Biden has had the balls to promise us a black Supreme Court justice on the campaign trail. He caught hell for that. Did that stop him? No. He delivered. He named the first black female vice president. Much to my dismay, because I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris. I'm sorry. But he promised a black female VP, and Joe Biden delivered. Look, I have no idea why the polls for Joe Biden have been low. But I think that says more about the polls than it does about our president. The polls may be broken, but I assure you that Joe Biden is not. He is the embodiment of experience. He is exactly what we need at this time of uncertainty in the world, not to mention that we already know he can beat Trump's ass. The last time he beat Trump's ass, the Republican Party was so butthurt that they ran around telling everybody that the election was stolen. You see how far that went. So sure, I can see why Republicans hate Joe Biden. Of course they do, because he's always beating them. Then when they make ageist jokes about Joe Biden as if their party doesn't contain the oldest people in politics, the Republican Party contains the oldest people in politics, and they're making fun of Joe Biden's age. How about this? Joe Biden said, I just said this, he wants to legalize marijuana. Finally, that would have an enormous positive effect on the black community. There's nothing inspires more police interaction than marijuana. Why didn't Obama legalize marijuana federally? Maybe he was too old, like I just said. Anyway, I think you get the point. The Jamal Show unequivocally, supports Joe Biden for as long as he wants to run. But now we have to move on. We need to give our hostages a break. And after that break, I need to talk to my good friend Jimmy a little bit and see what's on his mind. I believe he's called in. He's going to do his bi-weekly book review, and I hear this time he's got something a little different for us. I'm eager to hear what he has to say. You should be eager too. But until then, this is the music lesson by Seeds of Labor. There we go. Little water for me. I'm almost done, guys. Turn up a little louder.
Hey, I'm take you somewhere decent for lunch. Okay, when we leave here, so you be on my side when I say, let's go get some lunch. I'm with you, all right? I'm so hungry. All right, take you someplace nice for lunch. Sure.
But what are the Negroes' role and contributions in American history? The Negroes' role in the history of America? A good question. Perhaps we can briefly try to answer this one. Let us turn back the pages of history and start from the very beginning.
Yo, give me a little bit of space so I can disgrace my parents, because they don't like my appearance. But I can Uncle Tom like Clarence, the judge, dressed in a suit, made his marginal look. Follow me back like a rat, don't look back. Just keep moving. That's why I find rap soothing to my soul, because it makes me feel whole. Like a man, with the mic in hand, I can do amazing feats. So catch me on the rebound, quick to flip the trick with the adverb and pronoun. Structure them together to form a coherent series of events that you haven't heard since. History was written back in the beginning, in an African village, all blacks were living. But then came the Dutch, then came the English, then came the Portuguese who brought disease, changing slave ships, leg irons and whips, fried those whiskey, tobacco, and fire sticks. Gave them to the Zulus, gave them to the Incas, finished up the tricks, then they loaded up the ships. 100 million souls they got stole, but they weren't done yet. They had to have the whole continent. So next they sent the Royal Army and the Navy from the Queen's government to lie to the people. You're not created equal. Beat them in a gunfight and tell them God is white. Then they'll all believe it, and then you'll all achieve it. World supremacy just varies after age.
As America began its reconstruction,
Yeah, bought a new phone after 8 years, man. I did. Yeah, I got the iPhone 14 Pro Max, the biggest. Yeah, I went all out. I said, I'm gonna keep this phone for 8 years. Yeah, I buy mine outright. I don't go with the plan. Yeah, in the long run.
Last time I heard about your phone, you had left it at the job. I had to go get it. That was the old phone.
space.
From right quick.
I have a power.
10 more minutes. I don't want to hear what. That reminds me of that commercial. Remember that? Nuts and honey. They were like, "What are you doing?" Nothing, honey. Like, honey. Yeah.
Nothing, honey, Siri.
Nothing, honey.
She be getting all huffy.
Yeah. All right, we got 10 minutes. It's gonna be a good one. Jimmy has a good one for us today. Spoke to him last night.
Well, let's cut him short. Cut this short, and let's go to it.
Yeah, you can bring it down. It's ending anyway. Hello again, my friends. Life is for the living here at the Jamal Show, the place to get intelligent. That last piece of music you heard is called The Music Lesson. That song is by a golden age hip-hop group called Seeds of Labor, and you can find them everywhere you stream your music. That is my word. Also, important that I send a shout-out to the people of East Palestine, Ohio. That is where that awful train derailment occurred, spilling toxic chemicals all over the town. I know that those people out there are scared. They have a great deal to worry about, and they certainly don't want to be treated like black people, which is why they are being so loud right now. So I'm praying for that town to recover and get all the support they need from the train company and also local, state, and federal authorities. There needs to be an all-hands-on-deck approach to mitigate this disaster. With that out of the way, it's time to move on to my friend Jimmy.
But in my opinion, those people need to sell. Let the train company.
The properties are down.
Huh?
The property values are down now. They gotta wait till the cleanup happens.
Wait.
Who's gonna buy?
The train.
Are you in the market?
The train company.
Make them buy all the land.
Make them buy the land and move out of there. Okay, they've got kids. This stuff is no joke.
But the train company in the state says that that the water's good and that there's no long-lasting effects.
Did he say that?
Did he say that?
Right.
They said sorry.
But no, Jimmy, man. Come on in here, Jimmy.
So I'm talking too much, Jimmy. So let me move on to Jimmy. I've known Jimmy for about 30 years, and he's a special type of guy, if you know what I mean. If you ever meet a guy who talks and then keeps talking about stuff you never asked him, and then later on you find out that stuff he was talking about was really helpful to your situation, then you've probably met Jimmy. He's that bitter guy sitting on top of a mountain. And if you met Jimmy, you would also know that he really likes a good book. And you'll know when he reads a good book because then he's going to tell you all about it. You can't stop that from happening. And then all of a sudden, you're going to want to read that same book. That's how it always works. I can't tell you how many people have emailed me to tell me how much they like this segment. So, my friends, once again, it is time to bring you Jimmy's with Books. Whoops, wrong one. Sorry, Jimmy. Jimmy, are you there? Answer me now. Jim.
Yes, I'm here, man. How are you?
My friend, I'm doing well now that you're online. Why don't you tell me what you got for us?
All right, what I got for you today is it's actually not a book, it's an article that I read. I read it in the New York Times. To look this guy up, he's all over the internet. His name is Ken Rideout, which is Rideout. Ken Rideout is a 51-year-old guy, and he's the champion of the over 50 New York City Marathon, Boston Marathon, London Marathon, and he's getting ready to run the Tokyo Marathon. And the thing that's really interesting about him and how it ties into today's topic is he grew up in a broken home. His father and brother were both incarcerated. So he became, as a teenager, his first job was to be a CO in the jail where his father and brother were. He then went from that, put himself through school, wound up on Wall Street, working on Wall Street, doing very well. But he had what he calls imposter syndrome. So it kind of led him into doing opioids. He became addicted to opioids, right? He was addicted hard. Now, in his mid-30s, he stopped doing opioids, and he started running. He had not run before that. He had played football and a couple little sports in high school, but he was not a big sports guy, and he was in his mid-30s. He just started running, something other than doing opioids. And then he didn't actually start running marathons until his 40s. But now at age 51, he's a world champion. And the thing is, he's gotten better. His marathon time has decreased every single year for the past 15 years. And what I really got out of this, reading about him and reading his philosophy, is he's an extremist. So the thing that led him to being an opioid addict was being extreme, having a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy that needed a place to be put. And so once the opioids, he had to put that energy somewhere else. So he decided running at a time when most people would think that your running career would be over. And as a result of that, he's just gotten better and better and better. And he plans to keep running.
And you said that this relates to the topic, and it does. It does. This is an example of when someone had to change path. He gave something up in order to choose a new course. And you mentioned this to me on the phone the other day, that when you're giving up something, it's helpful to have something else to focus your attention on, right?
Yeah. Especially I gave up drinking 14 years ago. It's actually the 4th of March today, right? Is it the 4th?
Yes. Yes, I believe so.
So I quit drinking a while ago, 14 years ago. And I found capoeira. I do martial arts. And that it's as big as what drinking was. You have to find something to replace what you're giving up, something that is as all-encompassing. If not, your chances of sliding back are tremendous. So if you want to make a pivot in life, if you want to change, especially a bad habit, but it could be the same could happen for like a breakup or like a divorce or some kind of moving to a new city, any kind of major upheaval in your life, you have to throw yourself into something that could take all your passion, all your interest, and redirect it. It is very helpful.
No, I agree with you totally. I don't know. Personally, my big thing was trying to find a deeper meaning in Jesus Christ. There's so many different avenues and ways to come at it. You have the words of the apostles and things of this nature, and trying to understand the Bible in different ways. That's been the way I've done it.
It's funny because, I visit people in prison a lot, and the people that have a big problem in prison are the people who haven't found that thing that takes their mind away. I went to visit a guy who murdered somebody a couple months ago, and it's funny because you would never think a murderer would say this, but he was telling me about how he enjoyed the ministry in prison, how it was really helping his life. Like he found purpose in it. And I was like, my answer to him was keep doing that. Whatever it is, that keeps you from the hell of today, that keeps you from feeling the fire today, keep doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because you are going to do 25 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I agree with you, Jimmy. Jimmy, why don't you tell people some contact information for you before we get off so that they can reach out to you if they so feel the need.
Okay, if you're into working out, you can work out on Zoom. I have a workout practice, jamesmwangi.fitness. That's James, JAMES, MUWONGE.fitness @gmail.com. Hit me up there, and we'll get together, and you can make a big difference in your life, no matter where you are. If you're interested in changing the way your body is, and you're interested in changing your shape, and you're interested in revitalizing yourself health-wise, hit me up at jamesmwangi.fitness @gmail.com. And if just in case you forget that address, hit up the Jamal Show, and they'll direct you to me.
That's correct. We're going to let you go, Jimmy. I'll be talking to you later. We have come to near the end of our show. James, do you have any message for the world before we head out of here?
Love and peace is my message. If you are an old school hip hop fan, stream De La Soul. De La Soul's entire music catalog hit all the streaming services 2 days ago. They fought for this for like 30 years. So go out and stream some De La Soul.
All right.
That's right. Really quick. Shout out to Trugoy the Dove, who passed away a couple of weeks ago from De La Soul, one of my favorite groups of all time. But we have two James in the studio today. So I want James from St. Louis to send his message to the world before we leave out today.
All right. Yeah. I just want to say what's up to everybody. It's my last day in Connecticut, so I've had a great time, man. I love this. I love this city of Hartford. I want to thank my brother Jamal for everything he's done since I've been here, and we out.
Oh, much love to everybody. Anything from you?
No. I think we had a good show today, and
unfortunately, we're gonna have you back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm bringing some heavyweight with me next time I come.
Every week we run out of time, and this week is no different. Quick shout out to my friends Denise Wonderler, my son JD Wright, Joe Duncan, my sweetheart Deborah Abram, the Archbishop Dr. Alfonso Mack, my dad Dr. Carson Wright, my favorite client Michael Ray of Cool in the Gang. Michael Ray, you're my man. And also everybody else, James Farley included. You guys are good people. We pray for your continued support. But most of all, we love our listeners, all 13 of them, perhaps 14 now. My friends, without the listener, we would have nobody to talk to, and that would be sad indeed. So please take care of yourself in the next 2 weeks and try to take care of someone else too. See you in 2 weeks. TV on.
Never in a million years did I ever expect my healthy daughter
Thank you, man. Thank
to
you.
fall asleep watching TV and tragically never wake up.
Man.
She was only 2 years old, and this happened at her home in
let's go
New
eat.
Jersey in
Yeah, thanks for having me on
2017.
the show, man.
I had a great time. You
Her
have something to
dad
remember.
was
It's
categorized
gonna be
as
nobody.
Ain't nobody, man.
Yeah, everybody, somebody.
Unexplained death in childhood.
I caught you by
Essentially, this
surprise
is
with that,
SIDS,
didn't I?
but in kids 1 to 18 years old.
Put the chair back in the room.
Never heard of SUDC?
I never told you I was in
Well,
the
neither
seminary,
did
did
my
I?
husband and I, and we are both
Yeah,
physicians.
I was Carmelite.
Please visit
I was semi-cloistered for a while.
www.vienna.team to learn more about our sweet daughter Vienna's story, our family's 501c3 nonprofit, Team Vienna for SUDC awareness,
You hear
and
for
how
a
you
purpose,
can get
man.
involved
Everybody.
to help uncover these
You're
unexplained
here for a
tragedies
purpose.
with us. As a team, I know we
It's
can
the
get
fun
this
part is
done.
finding what the purpose
Thank you
is.
so much for your
Yeah.
support.
Trying
I'm
to
I'm
Vienna's
gonna do that
mom,
intro
Dr.
for you tonight.
Denise Wonderler,
How's it be going with
founder of
the
Team
playing of
Vienna,
it?
and
Good to see, bro.
co-founder
It's
of
doing
the
good.
Okay, good.
SUDC Coalition.
I
Thank you
said,
so
let me
much.
know when I gotta send you more. I'll send you 5. You probably need more soon.
You don't get a chance.
Yeah.
So every time you guys play a record, you have to pay the guy, right?
Yep. No, the ASCAP does that.
Yeah.
They pay a licensing fee to ASCAP. All radio stations do. And then ASCAP.
So you can play anything you want.
Yes. Yes, but you want to play things that are popular so that people listen. That's the whole idea. You want to do a good mix. The mix is always like a science with these guys, right?